Right, into this now. The Congress of South African Trade Unions is calling for the owners of the building and the construction company to be held liable for the cave-in. Cosatu's Western Cape Secretary Malvern De Bruyn joins me now for more on that. Malvern, good to have you. Thank you very much for coming. As far as you know, are any of the workers who are working on this building represented by any union?
Good evening, Mr. Ndluli, and good evening to the viewers and listeners. At this stage, we informed this morning because we had the leadership of Newzroom Afrika in George this morning, and they informed us that none of their members was employed at that site.
And the process of identifying the company, one would have thought is quite easy, because as opposed to put up a building of this nature, you would need permits, right? And the company would be certainly registered in the municipal books, and the company would be in the registrar of companies in the country. And it's quite easy to find who are the owners of this company, who should be held liable. Why do you think this process is seemingly taking so long?
What we've also heard this morning is we are quite shocked that the department can't get hold of the employer, and that's why subpoenas was issued. Then secondly to that, there needs to be permits whenever you set up a building, and we were reliably informed that there's a lot of discrepancies and flaws in how this whole process was conducted. And as Cosatu, we are worried because ultimately workers' lives has been lost. Workers are injured, and there are still workers been trapped under the rubble. So, as Cosatu, we are saying we want a thorough investigation. We want all law enforcement agencies to be on the ground, with the Department of Labor to be on the ground. They are there for the last 3 days, and they are really trying their utmost best to uncover the truth, what really happened here. And in the event that it's been found that there was negligence from the employer side, we are of the view that the law must take its course, that we should teach all these employers a lesson that think that they can undermine the health and safety of workers, because ultimately for them it's about profits, for them it's not about the safety of the employees. So we are saying to the department, we want all boots on the ground, we want everybody to come out and make sure that the investigation is thorough.
From where you're sitting now, does that therefore mean, for example, that this company might have not been making contributions, for example, for the compensation fund or even the UIF for these workers? So there's really no compensation for them at this point.
At this stage, we don't have all information, but what we also observed and reliably informed about is that there's quite a lot of foreigners that was employed, currently employed at the company. We spoke this morning with a group of Malawians, and they told us that they are the majority of foreigners working there. There's Zimbabweans, there's people from Mozambique. And what we've seen over this whole province is that majority of companies making use of foreign labor, not for the good thing, but for them to make more profit, meaning that they underpay them, they are not registered with the bargaining council, they are not registered with UIF, etc. So for them, it's about making profits. And there's a strong possibility, to answer your question directly, that the majority of those workers will not be covered under the Compensation Act. So we are worried about that. Our workers are now at the losing end again.
You are, of course, approaching the Department of Employment and Labor. What are you hoping your engagements are going to produce?
We had regular meetings with the Minister of Labor, because on all these events that have happened, farm workers that were killed, there was construction accidents, etc. And we once again told the minister, we said to the minister, look here, what we want is that we need more inspectors on the ground. We want to have a scenario that employers must be afraid to break the law, because they know the inspectors will be on the back. But what we've seen now recently is that there's just sufficient inspectors on the ground, and now employers are taking chances by not being compliant. So the minister has listened to us, and we are quite confident that he will look into the matter to ensure that we have more manpower on the ground to do. And we also proposed to him that we should do a joint campaign to visit all these construction companies to see whether they are compliant with the law.
What is
we just want to join them when they do the work.
Yeah. What is the foundation of this cheap labor system that is currently happening in South Africa that we're seemingly unable to deal with and curb effectively?
Yeah, I think currently there's no sufficient measures in place to curb this crisis in our country, where most employees, if you look at the construction industry, if you go into security industry, even into normal work factories, you'll find a lot of foreigners. As Cosatu, we don't have a problem with foreigners employed in our companies, but at least we documented people that have gone through the books. We want that, and we also say to the companies that you can employ foreign labor, but only in the event that you can't find the same skill in this country. And we can say that we've got more than enough skilled people that can perform 90% of the jobs in our country. So we want the Department of Labor with the Home Affairs Department to do those spot checks across all sectors of our economy so that employers can be afraid not to employ foreigners, because they are abusing foreigners for the cheap labor. They are abusing foreigners not to pay them the rate as prescribed by the Barclays Council rate, as prescribed by the government when it comes to the national minimum wage. So that's what we want, and we will put pressure on the minister. And we've got the minister that's listening to us. He will listen to us. He listened to us before, and we just had to have follow-up meetings going forward.
Let's listen to what the Western Cape Labour Department Chief Inspector David Essa had to say about this earlier on, in terms of what he says are legal steps that are being taken after the owner of the building failed to make contact despite being summoned.
Today we arrived. We then tried to make contact with the client, which is the owner of this premises. The address on our system, we went to that address and it was locked. We then proceeded to issue a subpoena. And up until today, there has been no response from that particular person. So we will proceed with our legal processes. And I'm hearing everywhere that he's making contact with people through his attorneys. That's not our business. He is obliged by law to make contact with the Department of Labor.
So, Malvern, there's undoubtedly a high degree of this behavior continuing of putting in cheap labor. There was a mass gathering, meeting, fact-finding mission Department of Labor did, and so on and so forth. Scarce skills were put on a list, and so on and so forth. But it seems all of these interventions are not being taken seriously, or even addressing the challenge that needs to be addressed.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct, 100%. And that's why we have said to the Department of Labor that they need more powers. I think the power that they also did is also to assist with the prosecution of these employees. Because one can give you another example, employees, my apologies. Another example that happened at Danielle, where workers died and the MA they decided not to prosecute. Are we going down the same route this time around? So we're saying we are calling on the community members out there in George and surrounding areas, if they know where this guy is staying, to notify the Department of Labor immediately so that they can go to him and ask what's happening. If needs be, to involve the law enforcement agencies to join them in finding this guy, because we can't keep quiet while people are dying. And now he feels that he's going to run away. And we are disturbed. So we're also saying to this employer that he must look after the families of the deceased. He must look after those workers that were injured. And we also want him to take full responsibility of what happened on Monday. We can't keep quiet, because workers sell their labor and not their lives. And they should not be treated as glorified slaves and by greedy employers.
Yeah. Malvern De Bruyn, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Western Cape Provincial Secretary for Cosatu. They're making a call for legal steps to be taken against the owners of the company, and they must be forced to look after the families of the deceased and the injured construction workers.